In 2002, almost 2 million innocent Americans were killed by a more deadly and more powerful form of terrorism: consumer terrorism, controlled by the U.S. food, drug, tobacco, and healthcare systems. Almost 2 million innocent people died, and no one said a word. Did you know that 1.3 million people will be diagnosed with cancer this year? Over 975,000 people will die this year of heart disease. The real tragedy is that blood vessel and heart disease are preventable. This year alone, over 550,000 people will die of cancer. 280,000 people will die from obesity. 72% of all men in the U.S. are now overweight. 62% of all women are overweight. Over 9 million children are seriously overweight. And over 1 million people will develop diabetes this year alone, and once again, it's preventable. So why don't we hear more about prevention? Maybe because there's no money in it. They have let us get sick before they can tell us the cure. Sometimes it works, but other times it doesn't. After all, just checking into a hospital can be risky. Did you know that 250,000 people will die this year alone due to mistakes made in hospitals? 12,000 deaths will result from unnecessary surgeries in hospitals. 7,000 will die from medication errors. 20,000 more will die from other errors in hospitals. 80,000 people will die from nosocomial infections in hospitals. And another 106,000 people will die from adverse effects to prescription medication. And if you think the healthcare industry has all the answers and is looking out for your best interest, well, think again. This next segment aired on CBS News. It's shocking to say the least. It just further demonstrates the problems plaguing our quote-unquote healthcare industry.
With 114 hospitals and $14 billion in yearly revenue, Tenet Health Systems is this country's second largest healthcare company. It is also one of the most profitable, having built much of its business on critical care centers, which specialize in expensive, high-risk procedures like heart surgery. But as Ed Bradley has learned, Tenet is now facing allegations that it made some of its profits from overbilling, false diagnoses, and in at least one hospital, major surgery performed on patients who didn't need it.
In the shadow of Mount Shasta is Redding, California, a quiet town surrounded by farmland and home to Redding Medical Center, one of Tenet Health System's most profitable hospitals. Since 1989, much of that profit has been generated by the hospital's director of cardiology, Dr. Chae-Hyun Moon. Dr. Moon has performed more than 30,000 angiograms and ultrasounds, procedures in which a tube is threaded through a patient's heart to look for clogged arteries. Based on those tests, Dr. Moon has sent thousands of patients for coronary bypass operations. One of them was Jay Bradley, 35-year-old father of 3. 2 years ago, Bradley started having chest pains and went to see Dr. Moon. The diagnosis was grim.
He put the monitor in front of my face, and he showed me a little, an artery on there. He says, well, this is clogged, and this runs the top front of your heart, and there's 0 chance of survival.
0 chance
Zero.
of survival?
He says, if something happens here, there's 0 chance of survival.
Whoa.
We need to operate you right away.
Immediately, Bradley was checked into the hospital and told he could be called into the operating room at any minute. But then something even more alarming happened.
A nurse come in, and she basically told me, get out.
What do you mean?
She said, get out. Under her breath, she says, you should get out. And walked out of the room, and I was like, hey, get back in here. She says, well, I could get fired for saying this, but I don't think you need this surgery.
Did she tell you why she thought you didn't need surgery?
She just says, I don't think you need bypass surgery. That's a major operation. I really don't think you need this. And she had asked another doctor to come in and talk to me. And he came in with his head down, wouldn't even look me in the eye, and said, I don't really think you need this. You should, maybe you should leave here and go to a big city somewhere.
So this is the situation. Dr. Moon says you need surgery right away or you're going to die. Another doctor comes in and tells you to get out of town?
Yeah.
And go somewhere else for another opinion?
Yes.
Whoa.
And at this point, I'm at my wits end crazy here. I don't know if, am I dying? Who's right, who's wrong here? And I went home.
But the next day, he had more chest pain, so he went across town to Reading's only other hospital, Mercy Medical Center, where he got yet another surprise.
They called the cardiologist in who had looked at my films, looked on my records, and he came up and told me, I don't see anything wrong with you at all.
Nothing wrong with
Nothing wrong with me. And the doctor finally told me, well, you're the third patient this week that's come in here from Reading Medical Center who had just basically narrowly escaped having this bypass surgery. They have to come in here that we can't find anything wrong with them.
After running tests of their own, doctors told Jay Bradley that he might have an irritated nerve or muscle. His chest pain soon ended and never happened again.
Since we first aired this story last February, Dr. Moon has lost his malpractice insurance and has stopped practicing. Lawsuits have now been filed against Tenet, Reading Medical Center, Dr. Moon, and several of the hospital's cardiac surgeons. The federal government has expanded its investigations of Tenet Healthcare Corporation nationwide, and the company's chief executive officer, Jeffrey Barbacol, has resigned.
I'm a very angry woman that this medicine has destroyed my health.
Each year, toxic side effects from prescription medicines injure tens of thousands of Americans. And sometimes it becomes big news.
Tonight, one of the most popular drugs taken for allergies
is being pulled off the shelves in the U.S.
Since 1997, over a dozen drugs had to be taken off the market because of severe side effects.
Off the market?
Pulled from the market. FDA administrators say these problems could not have been prevented.
At the time a drug is approved, we don't have all the information that we would like to have.
Off the market. Off the market.
But is there pressure on the FDA staff to allow dangerous drugs on the market?
I was told very explicitly, don't write in your review that you're recommending against approval.
Tonight, Frontline investigates the integrity of our drug safety system.
It behooves us all to take a closer look at what we call our healthcare system. And the biggest question is this: with all the advances in technology, pharmaceutical science, and research, why are so many chronic diseases and health conditions like obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, heart disease on the rise? Why is billions of dollars worth of treatment yielding few results? The two primary reasons are the American diet and our approach to medically treating the symptoms of chronic health conditions.
These are all the medications that I have to take daily. This drug here is Lipitor. This keeps my cholesterol down, and this is about $140. This is my Fosamax. It's $142 a month for 4 pills.
Add in Prevacid and Zoloft, and Carlene Simpson faces a monthly bill of nearly $600.
Was getting so it was more than my Social Security, so I was debating whether or not to eliminate some of them.
And that's the state of our healthcare system today. Creating pills to treat the symptoms as opposed to identifying and eliminating the true underlying root cause. The American diet is largely influenced by mass media advertising. Every time you experience something, hear something, or see something repetitively, it becomes lodged in your subconscious mind, the part of your mind that acts as the database, the place where all of your data is stored. Your conscious mind uses the database to retrieve information whenever needed. Have you ever been driving down the road and had another car pull out in front of you all of a sudden? Have you ever thought about your reaction in a moment like that? There's no time to think about it, so your subconscious mind takes over. Your hands and your feet seem to drive the car all by themselves, and before you know it, you've avoided an accident. This is a case of good data from your subconscious mind being put to use. But what other information is stored there, and how does it get there? And can it play a role in causing you to get sick and come down with lifelong chronic diseases? The people in the advertising industry know how the information gets there, especially the ones who make television commercials. It was discovered in the 1950s that if you can get your message into someone's head 9 times over a 30-day period, that information will be stored there permanently. Not only that, But once this information is stored there, it can actually play a role in causing people to do certain things, especially when it comes to what they eat. How many commercials have you seen in your lifetime? Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands? And how much of that information is stored right now in your subconscious mind? Let's do a little test and find out. We're going to ask you a question and see if you can answer it. What's on a Big Mac? Do you know? Seriously, can you remember? If you were watching TV in the 1970s, then chances are that you knew the answer to this question. And if you did, all the ingredients came instantly to your mind. 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. How else would that information have gotten there? Have you ever taken a Big Mac apart and study all the ingredients and commit them to memory? Repetition is the key. Repetition is what causes information to be permanently locked into your database. If you heard it 9 times over a 30-day period, then it's locked there forever. See if you can complete these lines that were used in popular commercials. What melts in your mouth but not in your hands? Good. Good. You deserve a break today at